Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's Daf Hayomi. CHULLIN Daf Yud Aleph. We begin at the second line and continuing our discussion, which we began yesterday. We're looking for sources for various concepts that are found in halacha throughout the Gemara. First was chazaka, which was proven from the halacha of nega, as discussed yesterday. Here comes a new question. How do we know that we follow the majority, the roiv? One of the most widely used formulas, roiv. Follow the roiv. How do we know? Menah Milsa says, how do we know this fact? The Amar Rabbanan, that the Rabbanan teach us, zil basaruba. We follow the majority. So, for instance, you have a piece of meat in the street. Is it kosher? Is it not kosher? Take a look at the stores in the area. If the majority is kosher, you assume this meat came from there. Or we have the same in the Bezdin, right? We have a disagreement in terms of how to paskin a shaila. We follow the majority rule, majority view. Most of the dayan, most of the judges go one way. We follow that their opinion. So how do we know? Minam Milsa, Dam Rabbanon, Zilbasaru. Minalan, what do you mean? How do we know? It's a pasuk of the Torah that the verdict of a bezdin is contingent upon majority opinion. Minalan tichsiv achrei rabbim lahantais. We follow the majority in the bezdin. Says the Gemara for sure. Ruba, a majority element that's present before us, that we see, that's tangible, the Isa command that's before us. For instance, these actual two examples just mentioned. The story with the meat on the street, and you have 9 stores around the area that are kosher and one is not. To say that you follow the 9 versus the 1, that's a ruba the Isa command, that's a roiv that's here, that's present, it's tangible. Another example of the Sanhedrin, following the view of the majority, dayanim, members of the Sanhedrin. So these are all Isa Kama, they're here in front of you. Loi kami bailan, that wasn't our question. That's a pasuk. Achrei rabbim lahantas. Rather, ki kami bailan, our question was regarding a ruba de lese kamon, a roiv factor which is not present before us. It's not tangible. It's not a visible roiv. It's more like, what's the more prevalent, phenomenon? Statistically, right? Kigoyin, for instance, katan uktana. So we have a woman whose husband passed away without children. She's a yivama. She must undergo yivam. Now, suppose the woman is a katana. The potential yavam to perform the yivam is a katan, a minor. So what's the issue? Because perhaps by nature they can't bear children. Maybe they're this type of person. It's unlikely. Statistically, the majority do not have this issue. But maybe, yeah. In which case, it eliminates the yibum option. You can't do yibum if there's no potential for children. So that is a situation where we have to follow the roiv factor, which is more of a theoretical roiv. It's not an actual physical phenomena in front of us that we could draw from, like the 9 stores versus the 1 store that you can actually relate to it in front of you. Here it's more of a statistical type of thing, more of a determining the laws of nature type of determination. So in this case, how do we know that we go with the right? We say, well, most likely they're healthy, like the majority of the world's population. Manila, Amr Balazar, Asya Maresha Shalayla. Take a look at the head of the oila, of the carbon oila. Now, you can't really break it apart to examine the interior to determine whether maybe the membrane around the brain is punctured, which would render it a treifa, which would make it possible for hakrava. There's no way to do that. Why? The pasuk says, "V'nitach oisa." We dissect the actual animal into sections, into proper sections. Oisa, the actual animal itself, linasachim into sections, but you can't take those sections and dissect them further. Not its sections linasachim to be dissected further. So now the question arises: what about our concern shema nikrav krum shel mayach? Maybe the krum, the membrane around the brain in the head of the oila animal, was punctured, rendering the animal unfit for akrava. How would you know? You can't break it open. If not for the idea of going with the roiv. Well, most likely animals are healthy. Statistically, they're healthy. So that's a roiv which is more of an abstract type of roiv. And that allows us to determine that most likely this animal is healthy and it's okay, it can be used for a carbon. So there's the source. How do you know? Dilma de palile ubadakle. Maybe he actually does crack it open a bit, cracks the skull open a bit, which allows him access to examine the interior. And regarding that issue of only proper parts rather than dissection, that's only true if he really dissects it completely. But if it's still attached somewhat, just a little break and it's still attached more or less, who says that's an issue? So perhaps that's what he does. Inspects it, determines that it's not a treifa, and is makriv it without a roiv element at play. Okay, Marber Ravina Amar, I'll bring you another raya. Asya, we learn it mishviras etzem Pesach. A carbon Pesach's bones may not be broken. Damar Rachmana, Pasuk says ve'etzem, a bone like tishbur, you can't break. So now it would trigger the same concern without any form of recourse in this case. You can't break it at all. The same issue. How do you know the carbon Pesach is kosher to eat? Maybe it's a treifa, maybe it had an internal wound. You can't get there. You can't break the skull at all. Apparently we follow Rav. Most likely the animal is okay, you can eat it. Who says? True, you can't break the skull, but you can burn it. Burning is not breaking. Mimai, who says? Dilma de manach. He places gumrasa, a coal, alay on the skull, and he burns it through till he gets to the membrane, which he will now examine, which will allow him to definitively conclude one way or the other, without relying on any theories. Ubadakle. Badakle, he checks it. The sanya, as we learned, it's okay to burn the bones. If he just cuts the sinews, that's not a bone. Or he burns the bones. There's no issue of shviras etzem. There's no violation of breaking bones. So there you go, without resorting to raiv. Next raya, Rav Nachman Yitzchak Oma Asya Ma'alya. Take a look at the tail. So umakriv the tail of the carbon. Rashi says shlamim rachatas. Okay, so if it's the sheep, the ram, you have to take the alya, the tail, and put it on the mizbeach. The Amar Rachman, and again the Torah refers to it as a complete whole, undissected tail. Chelboy ha'alya timima. Tamim means whole. But how could you know what's going on beneath the surface? How could you check whether the chut hashedra, the spinal cord, which is vital to the animal's survival and health, how do you know it's intact? Without inspecting the inside of the tail, which you can't get to. Let us be concerned. Perhaps the chut hashedra was split, was cut somewhere along the line, which renders it a treif. Allah b'shnamrinon zilba saruba. Apparently, we follow the roiv, and roiv animals are healthy. There's no issue. Perhaps the metatoi pasakle. Perhaps this whole issue is a non-issue because the tail that we're talking about is the lower part of the tail, below the thigh area, in which case, even if the chut hashedra would have been broken there, it would be okay, because at that point the chut hashedra sort of whittles out. It's not really so critical, so it wouldn't become a treif, even if it was damaged there. So as long as the upper part is examinable, that's the critical part of the chut hashedra, you can determine the status of the animal. He lowers, pasakle chops off the alya there, meaning only the lower portion of the alya. No. The alya starts from way back up by the kidney area, where the chut hashedra is really intact and vital. Lumas ha'atza, near the opposite, the atza, kidneys. The Torah describes it. The kidneys are called yatzos. They advise, they influence the thinking and thought process, the cognizance of a person or an animal. In any case, the aliyah that we're speaking of here starts from further back up, where the Chut HaShedra is a fully functioning entity and needs to be complete, undamaged. And you can't open that area because it's tamima. It has to be whole and complete. No, perhaps he slices open the tail and checks the Chut HaShedra. And regarding the tamima requirement, it's still tamima. He didn't break it into two. It's only a concern if he actually cuts it into two separate. But if it's still somewhat connected, there's no concern. There goes that proof. I'll bring you another raya. That we follow the majority, we follow the rave element. We learn it me'egla rufa, from the beheaded calf, brought on account of a victim discovered on the road. Ha'arufa has to be whole kishishlema. It has to be intact. You can't break it up, you can't cut it up. So then how do you know that it's not a treifa? So it must be, we apply roiv. Ask the Gemara, and perhaps you'll say, Manaf Gemina. You know what, it's not really a korban in the Beis HaMikdash, so even if it's a treifa, it would be okay. So there goes our whole proof. It doesn't have to be a confirmed non-treifa. Incorrect. Ha'amr Dvir Rabbi Yanai, we learned in the Brisa, kapara. Ksiba kakach, the Torah refers to it as kapara. Kapara al-Amcha Yisrael, very similar to karbanis. And just as a korban has to be a non-treifa, here as well. So that's a raya that we apply the right factor to validate the Ekla roof. Rabba bar Rav Shila Amar, another raya, Asher mi paraduma. Paraduma, same idea. The Amar Achmana v'shachat v'saraf. You shecht and you burn it. We connect the two processes. Mashchi tosak shishlem, just like shchita occurs when the animal is intact and whole, right? You shecht the whole animal. Asher fasak shishlem, likewise the burning process must involve a complete, whole cow, undissected. Well, if you can't dissect, you can't access. You can't access. You can't examine it. If you can't examine, you can't determine that it was a non-treifa. So that triggers the treifa concern. Apparently apply the raiv factor as well. Perhaps you'll argue, you'll say, who says a treifa, paraduma is not okay? Who says you need to be? Again, chatas, kai rachman, the Torah refers to it as a chatas. L'meini the chatas, he says Rashi. So it's comparable to a korban in the Beis HaMikdash, which would be invalidated if it's treifa. Apparently it's a non-treifa. How do you know it's a non-treifa? Because of raiv. Another raya, Rav Achbar Yaakov Amar Aser, we learned Misar Mishtaleach, the second goat on Yom Kippur that's tossed down the mountain, right? Amar V'lakach Shnei Asirim, Torah refers to both goats, the one that's meant as a korban Lashem, as a chatas, and the one that's meant Lazal, will be sent out as one pair, one comparable pair. Shiur Shneim Shav, and that to be similar to each other. And the question is, V'leichash Dilma, we turn to Talmud Bavli, V'delma, same issue. Maybe the one that's a chatas, you can open it up afterwards and check it, but the one that's being thrown down the mountain, Dilma Chad Min Trevi, maybe one of them is a treifa. Dilma Chad Min Trevu. So fine, you'll check, but you can only check the one that's a chatas. But the one that's thrown down the mountain, you can't act. Elalav Mishum Davrinas of Azaruba. Apparently you're probably right. You say it's probably not a treifa. Says the Gemara the same question. Who says treifa is an issue by Sarah Lazazel? It's not a korban. No. Because the goat that's ultimately going to be sent out to the desert had to have potential suitability for a chatas. Because although ultimately one is determined is labeled as Lashem, as chatas, the other one Lazazel, but before casting that lot, doing that lottery, both animals had to be of equal stature, of equal potential to be used as chatas. They both could not be treifa. Ha'ein goyrol, the goyrol, the lot, which determines which one is chatas, which one is lazal. Kaveh, it can't determine. It can't be activated. Even la'azazel, on the one that's going la'azazel el b'davar, unless that item, that animal is haroi lashem, which is suitable for lashem, for a chatas, meaning healthy, non-treifa. Okay, so maybe I'll examine him. But no, you can't. It's not possible. Before you even got to the half down the mountain, he would totally break apart into sections. Too late for any examination. Ashanasa Evarim, it turns into parts. So the only way is by applying the Roiv formula. Rav Mari Amar, another raya, that Roiv allows us to determine status. Ashya mimak avavim. We learn from the halacha, a person strikes his father or mother, which makes him liable to death, right? Omar parshanut-torah says, Kali, kill him. Hold it. How do you know he's his father? How do you know this man that he struck is his real, legitimate, biological father? You never know. Maybe he's not really his father. Apparently we apply Roiv. We say, look, we follow the majority of Roiv, these are married. So most likely, Roiv interactions was with her husband. So Roiv determines the status. Mimai, who says that you have to employ Roiv. Dilma, perhaps when the Torah says that we kill a son who struck his father, that's limited to where we know definitively, without doubt, that it's his father. Dilma could go in, for instance, show you other the ima, his father and mother, chabushim, locked up in prison with nobody else around. Beis Hasur, Afilocha, still that wouldn't really prove beyond a doubt, because in Apotropos there are no caretakers. There's no way to know anything when it comes to when it comes to these issues. Very precarious topic, and therefore there's no way to really confidently determine unless you employ Roiv. That's another Roiv. Rav Kana Omar, another proof that Roiv is always applied. Asya Maharagas HaNefesh. We learn from the halacha of a murderer. Reuven kills Shimon. Torah says, Kali, we kill Reuven. 1 second, how do we know? Maybe Shimon was a half-dead person already. Maybe he was unhealthy. Maybe he was a treifa. A person who kills a treifa is pater. It's like he killed a dead person, slated for death. Perhaps Shimon is a treifa. How are you ever going to know? If not for Roiv, that determines otherwise. Hell alav, apparently Mishum Nabrin is where we go with the Roiv. No, who says maybe we have to examine the victim. We check his vitals, we check his internals, and we see what's going on to determine. That's unlikely. Hakaminva, because that would be very disrespectful for the to the dead person. No, but perhaps you can argue, although it's not something we don't do post-mortem, autopsies, but to save this murderer's life, we're obligated to do anything we could to get to the truth. Rashi brings the pasuk, we have to make all effort to spare him from punishment if there's some sort of saving grace. Says the Gemara, so that would be the question. Perhaps you check. So you only kill the murderer if it's determined that the victim was not a treifa. But you're never really going to get to the bottom, because fine, his lungs are okay, everything, but maybe, just maybe, okay, he killed him with a sword, right? But maybe at that exact place, that exact point of contact, where the sword hit the person, maybe there was already a pre-existing wound, a puncture right there, which rendered him a treifa. You'll never know. There's no way to find that now. The place where the Saif struck him, the sword nekav, there was a nekav. So the only way around that is to say, look, stop speculating, go with Roiv, most likely it wasn't, right? And therefore, we consider him to be a full, healthy person who was killed by Reuven, and Reuven is deserving of Misa. Ravina Amar, another raya, very similar. Asya me'edim zaymimin. We learn from the halacha of edim zaymimin. So 2 witnesses had ganged up on this victim, testified falsely against him regarding a matter that would make him liable to Misa. What does the pasuk say? If it was discovered that these 2 edim are really fakers, they're plotters, we do to the plotter as he had intended on inflicting on his victim. The question is, fine, Reuben and Shimon, the edim zaymin, tried to kill Levi unjustifiably, but maybe Levi was really a treifa, so technically they weren't trying to kill a healthy person. So why would you turn it back on them and kill them? Perhaps the person that they testified against was a treifa. Apparently, we apply the Rav concept. We don't entertain these unlikely speculations. So as the Gemara who says, perhaps we have to examine him. After he died, Levi, you have to examine him to determine whether he's a treifa. Atanya. But it's incorrect, because Beribi, the great Chacham, told us, no, that's not the way Edom Zebman works. Actually, we only kill them if they did not carry out, if their plot was not brought to fruition. Then we kill them. But once their plot is brought into actuality and the victim was actually killed by the best, and then it was discovered too late that the fellows were merely plotters, then it goes into a whole different realm of, it's not Edom Zebman, we don't kill them. So clearly Levi was not yet killed, so there's nothing to examine. It was merely on account of their attempt. And that cannot be determined. How could you know what Levi is all about, if he's healthy or not? Apparently, Rav tells us that he was healthy. Rav Ashi Omar, another raya, one last raya. Asya, take a look at shchita. We learned how shchita, right? Asya mishchita atzma, take a look at the process of shchita. Damar Achman Torah says, shchait ve'achayel. Shecht and eat. Hold it, how do you know that the animal was okay? Maybe at that exact spot where the knife cut through, there was already a pre-existing puncture which will never be noticeable later on, even upon examination. Let's be concerned, Shema perhaps b'makim nekev k'shachat. He's doing shchita on that pre-existing hole, if not for the Rav telling us otherwise. It must be b'shem namrin zabazaruba. Amar Rashi. We have so many proofs. We have shchita, edem, zemimin, ritzicha, ma'aka avavi imai, etc., etc. Amar Rashi, Amrisa Lishmata presented this series of proofs. Kamei Rav Kahana to Rav Kahana, to prove that we follow Rav even when it's less a kaman, when it's not something that's actually in front of us, it's more theoretical, it's more statistic, it's more about laws of nature. For Amar, some say it was Rav Kahana who presented it Kamei to Rav Simi. V'amar lei of Amar li, and he responded to me with a question. Sure, but all these cases that you brought are cases without a real alternative. You're right, there's no way to determine without Rav. You can never know, was there a hole in the lung, in the makam shchita, you're right. So perhaps in these cases, the Torah says, you know what? Follow the Rav, because you have no other alternative. But suppose you're faced with a situation where you do have another way of verifying, another means of determining. Perhaps you have to. Perhaps you can't just rely on Rav. How do you know, right? But I'm really told Viduma, perhaps, Heicha, de Efshar. When you have another possible means of verification, Efshar, then yeah. That's different, then you should do that. Heicha de lo Efshar, le Efshar. When you can't, so then you go with the Rav. And I'll even prove to you that we make this distinction. That this chiluk is valid. Because otherwise, if you don't agree with me, to differentiate between Efshar and le Efshar. We all know Rav Meir concerns himself even with minority issue, even with small percentages. The Rav Meir the chayish l'miuta. So that the classic case is the story with the Yavam and the Yavama, the Ketanim. He says, no, hold up, wait up until they grow up. In which case you'll see whether they're of childbearing, potential, right? Because there's certain signs, certain features, certain indicators on the person which allows us to determine that, right? Okay, so you have to wait. The chayish l'miuta. So that's despite the Rav declaring otherwise. Most likely the kids are healthy. But Rav Meir says, you know what? You never know. We have to be concerned even about an unlikely scenario, even about a mute. So you mean to say, according to Rav Meir, you can't eat a meat? For concern of this unlikely, far-fetched concern that the fellow shechted on the whole? You mean doesn't eat meat? Perhaps, yeah, you're right, doesn't eat meat. Says the one you raise him an olive. That's good for, Shabbos. But what about Pesach v'kachim? That's good for private consumption. What about Karban Pesach, which everyone has to eat? V'kachim, Karbanis, everybody has to eat. As she says, it's part and parcel of the kapara. A shlamim is brought, and the kohanim and the owner eat the meat. That's part of the kapara. Michael, how are you going to get around that? So you must say there's a difference between Efshar and La Efshar. Elehecha de Efshar, Efshar. When you have another alternative, you have another choice, like the Katan and Ktana, you can just let them grow up and then determine. So you meant to do that without resorting to Rav. When you can't, like Pesach v'kachim loyavsha, you can't. So you go with the Rav. Here as well regarding us, even according to Rabbanan, would typically go with the Rav. Maybe that's only when you have no choice. When you can, loyavsha, so loyavsha, fine, you go with the Rav. But otherwise, when it's efshar, when you have another means of verification, like by the cases that you could, like by the Khatam Niktana, who says you resort to Rav. So basically, we haven't really answered our question. We know for a fact, that was the Kabbalah, that was the Torah Sheba'al Peh, that we follow Rav in all cases. According to Rabbanan, Halechas Achar Rav. Whether it's Isei Kaman, whether it's Lesa Kaman, whether it's Efsham, Le'efsham, how do we know? So Rashi says, the conclusion of the Gemara will be, Elavadai, this is the 5th line of Rashi, Elavadai Halacha LeMoshe Misinai. Apparently it's Halacha Moshe Misinai, it was handed down by Moshe Rabbeinu from Sinai, orally, that what? That we are Saimach on Rav, I feel even when there's another means of verification, we follow Rav. Rashi says that's what we're Saimach on today, that's what we rely on when we check. We don't check all the 18 possible treifa issues, because Rav animals are presumed to be healthy and okay. The only thing we check, he says, is we check the lungs for possible punctures, because that's very common. So even though it's a miut, but since it's a common miut, chacham u'machmer, and we do a check on that. But otherwise, in terms of the other potential issues, we do follow the majority to be machshir the animal. Okay, so we started with a question: what's the makar of Rav? And we differentiated between Isei Kaman, like the Sanhedrin, like the 9 stores. Certainly, that's a pasuk, we follow Rav. What about Lesei Kaman, when it's a matter of laws of nature, determining based on sort of statistics and likelihood? We had several rayas, but even those only got us to a point of Loyavsha, when there's no other option. What about if there's an option to wait and to figure out? So bottom line is Halacha Moshe Sinai, to follow Rav under all circumstances. Okay, all the best to you, and Hatzlacha Rabbah.